Can you all hear me? At least see me? Say hello or salam or
Yes, sir.
speak up a little bit so I know that I'm
Assalamu
audible.
alaikum. Yeah, we can hear you.
Walaikum
Walaikum
salam.
assalam.
I can see you.
No, yes, maybe. Okay, can someone please talk so I can at least hear that someone can hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, very good, very good. There you go. Thank you, Imran, for
You're welcome.
acknowledging. Okay, perfect, perfect. So, all right. So, do we have the coordinator here, Mr. Can I get started? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen first, and then I'll start off with my introduction, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so can you now all see my screen with the slides?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Thank you. So time and again, I'll just ask you for confirmation. So if you can just confirm that I'm audible, because I'm actually doing this from a very remote area. I had to go to some place in emergency. So there was a family emergency I had to go to. So I'm doing it from a very remote area. So sometimes, I lose the signals and I lose the network. So just wanted to make sure that that I'm, audible. All right, so I'll start off with my introduction first, and then if you wanna just introduce yourself quickly, that would be awesome. If not, that's fine too. So my name is, you guys all see up there, my name is Abdul Wahab, originally from Peshawar, Pakistan. And I moved to the United States back in 2012 or maybe 2011. And then from there on, I went there as a student, continued my education there, got my master's degree in civil engineering, and then from there on my PhD in civil engineering with a background in construction engineering and management. So and as I was pursuing my master's degree, I was also working full time. It wasn't easy, but somehow I managed it. But I was full time as a working as a you know civil consultant, you can say, or over there they call it civil advisor, consultant cost advisor, with a company in Washington, D.C. And from there on, my career started as a project management professional. So from there on, I thought, I should do my PhD. So I went on to continue with my further education on uh, working on PhD, and I got my PhD just recently, a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And that was in also civil engineering with a strong focus on bringing in modern innovative technology in the civil industry. So as we all know, or maybe at least some of you know, people who have civil engineering background, we civil engineers, we tend to incorporate the technology very slow in our industry. So civil is one of those fields where technology is very slow in incorporating their processes. So one of the research interests I had was to bring in some of the modern technology like blockchain technology. I don't know if you have heard about it, but it's a decentralized system, blockchain technology, that we do a lot of processes. Currently, blockchain technology is basically um, very heavy in the financial IT sector or financial institutes, but there are researches, there are literature now that that technology is also being incorporated in other fields, and especially in the construction world as well. So this is what I researched in. And on top of my blockchain technology, I also had a keen interest in the building information modeling. So one of those technologies in bringing building information modeling to the construction processes, particularly in the pre-construction processes like construction cost estimation, construction scheduling, construction risk analysis, constructability reviews, change order analysis, all those type of things are pre-construction. Basically, they all come under the planning process of the pre-construction. So My research was also focusing on bringing BIM into the pre-construction planning processes, particularly focusing on the construction cost estimation and also scheduling. So if I just summarize what I just said, is that my work experience and also my academic experience are kind of like very aligned to one another. So whatever I do at work, I basically had pursued that in my academic career as well. And so since 2012, I've been working in the pre-construction planning processes with a major firm in the Washington, D.C. area. And I started off as a very fresh young engineer, just like a project engineer or an assistant project manager. And then from there on, I'm currently serving as one of the senior directors, senior project manager, and also I'm also overseeing the construction contract area, construction administration in general, and also constructability reviews and value engineering and all those type of things. So over 15 years of experience at this point altogether. But out of those 15 years, 12 years are directly related to construction cost estimation, scheduling, and risk analysis, and so on and so forth. So that's just my, I know I can go on and on and on with my experience, but that's just my experience. And if you guys want to just quickly introduce yourself, that would be good. I'll give you a couple of minutes. But if not, we can just straight jump into one of the most important topic, or the most important topic, right? Everyone talks about money being very important to everyone. So we can talk straight about the cost estimation if you don't want to introduce yourself. So feel free. I'll just give you a couple of minutes if some of you want to introduce or why you are here or why you want to do construction cost estimation. Some say something so that at least I know what my audience are and who I'm talking to and stuff like that. So please feel.
Sir, my name is Mohammad Sarwar, and I have done BSc Building and Architectural Engineering. I have done MSc Integrated Building Design from UET Lahore, and I have done postgraduate diploma in Building Information Modeling from BIMPARK, and I have having 12 years of experience. I just want to join your course because very much ambitious to learn about PlanSwift and how the cost estimation has been carried out. Before that, I have used Bluebeam for estimation, but there are some. I just want to convey my observations to you that, sir, in Pakistan, if a person is doing a job in government sector, they carry out the rates from the MRS system, market rate system.
Right.
I don't know what will be your strategy to teach the costing estimation is overall generic, or you will keep the market rate system also by considering the biannual of whatever government of Punjab or government of KPK. So this is my just humble request that please keep also in loop the Pakistani system, the Pakistani standards like market rate system. This is my just simple request and humble request.
No, perfect. That's first of all, great introduction, and I'm very glad looking at your credentials and hearing about your credentials. Those are very great, good experience and great credentials, and I congratulate you on that. Second, regarding your concern about talking about different market, look, I have to be very honest with you. So see, this is a 5 months diploma. I can cover but so much in 5 months, right? This is not a traditional semester system where so part of my introduction, which I did not bring in, I'm also a professor at a US university there. So the way we do estimation in the academia is that we have set semesters. So there will be estimation one in one semester, there will be estimation two in the next semester, and then finally we have like estimation, advanced estimation techniques and all that. So if you can see, those are like 3 regular semester courses. In those courses, I can pretty much cover anything related to estimation, whether this is particularly to United States or anywhere in the world. But since this being a diploma, I'll be definitely touching on the current market related to at least these 4 or 5 regions. One being Pakistan, of course, because most of our audience is from Pakistan. So definitely there will be a touch on that one. Now, second is also the Gulf countries, the UAE, the Qatar, the Saudis, and all those countries. So I'll be touching on those as well. Third being the US Canada. So US Canada, I treat that as same because there's a very small similar, I mean, a very small difference between Canada and the United States. So I'll cover that. And then the last one is the UK audience. So UK also is similar, but of course the dollar value and the pound value is a lot different than one another. So I'll have that in my mind, but I cannot promise you that I'm going to be providing you databases for all 5 countries because that would be too much. And there's no way I can retrieve so many data for 5 different countries. Now, the reason being is that I'm focusing on, from the US perspective, is that now, since I'm been in the industry for a long time, I've seen that the US market is coming to Pakistan and all over the world, bringing people from here and trying to employ them there in the United States through a remote channel. I have employed at least 16 people in my career from Pakistan. They're still working from Pakistan. So one of the goal is that to teach our Pakistani students or people who are here local so that they can at least seek a job in the United States as well. So if there's an opportunity in the United States, because that United States is very open in employing people from a different part of the world, one Pakistan being one of the major contributors. So at least when my student go out and apply for a job position in the United States, he would know the whole process behind the cost estimation. That is one of my personal goals. But other than that, I'll try the other regions as well, as you said. I think you raised your hand again. Do you have another question or something?
No, I was just appreciating. No question.
Oh,
Thank you.
oh, okay. Okay, perfect. All right, thanks, Musawwir. Server, you said, right? Server? Azam Server?
Yes, sir. Awesome.
Okay, thank you, Azam. Anyone else? Anyone else want to take the mic and talk for a few minutes? I just want to do this webinar as like an interactive session. This is not like a traditional teacher-student relationship at this point. You know, I just so take this opportunity to introduce yourself, talk to me directly of what you want, just like Azam said that he wants to see this in the course. So if someone else has a suggestion, I would definitely love to see that as well. So please speak up. Don't be shy. We're all the same. Don't worry. I'm just one of
Uh,
you guys.
yeah, this
Hello.
is Sharif. Yeah.
Go
Uh,
ahead, Sharif. I'll
Hello.
let you.
May I speak for a while?
Yeah, Omar, yeah, Omar, right? Did I say your name right?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is Umera. I'm a civil engineer. I did my engineering from Karachi, NED University.
Nice.
Then I did a postgraduate diploma from the same university. Right now, I'm doing my master's in project management, and I have done my certification in BIM from BIM Park. So I found this course outline and which shared with us was interesting. But interested to know the key difference between this because what I think we can cover the cost estimation even in real time from BIM. So why there is a need of this course, and also I'm interested to know the assessment of this diploma. Thank you.
Okay, well, great question. So yeah, first again, you know, great credential, great background, civil engineering background from NAD, one of the very prestigious universities. So yeah, that's very good. So you said why there's a need if we can do the cost estimation. Look, if I tell you that the cost in the United States has changed in the last week, you would not believe me, right? Because of the administrative changes. You know, we just introduced the new president. And with that presidency, he signed like almost 24 different executive orders, which included many tariffs. Now, just alone in the United States, I'm just giving you the example of the United States because I'm overseeing the United States market very closely. So just in a matter of 1 week, we have 24 executive orders issued by the president in the first week of his office. And that 24 executive order changed the cost estimation upside down. So when we talk about cost estimation, we're not just talking about, okay, quantity times unit pricing, and that is cost estimation. Now, as I go through today's lecture or today's webinar, you'll see that cost estimation is just beyond quantity times the unit cost. There are so many other factors that affect the cost estimation processes. So for your question that why we need a cost estimation course specifically when you can do it this way, this is the reason that you cannot control the market. So in just the United States, we are importing 450 different building materials from all over the world. 450 materials that are directly related to building construction. Now imagine how those materials get affected by the newly employed tariffs. So of course, the cost estimation that you have done in the Biden era is now completely different than what you're going to be doing in this new administration. So you see the difference between the cost estimation, how your cost estimation 6 months ago, even though the market has not changed that much in 6 months, but you see just the administrative changes, just the presidential changes, and you see now the cost estimation has significantly gone up because Trump has said that he's going to imply heavy tariffs on all those companies who are bringing material into the United States. He wants to push he wants to push people to use his own material that is being produced in the country. So did I answer your question? Did that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What was your second question? Was there a second question, or this was it?
It was about the assessment of this course,
Okay.
because last time when I did this, that was a certification course. So they just provided us a model and we model in 3D. So
Okay.
do we have a semester system?
Okay. Okay. So yeah, this course you'll see that we'll be so primarily focusing on PlanSwift because this course is and I'll tell you why we are preferring PlanSwift over so many other 3D models or 3D tools. You'll see that even after this webinar, you'll see that why we are so heavy on using the 2D versus 3D. So in my experience, I would still use the 2D more than the 3D models like BIM or the other softwares because 2D has a lot more to do than the 3D models. And I'll show you why. Once we get into I have a few slides. I mean, these slides were prepared in very quick time, but I feel like I have enough material to convey through this webinar and teach you why cost estimation using PlanSwift is still very important and still very useful in the current industry. All right. Anyone else? I'll take one more before I jump on to the Sharif. I think you were speaking up and we got you. So Sharif, if you want to just go ahead and
Yeah, Sharif, I'm a civil engineer, graduated from UT Peshawar 2007. Currently, I'm working with American firm Bechtel Corporation on
nice.
NEOM project from last 10 years. So I'm excited. Really, we for cost estimation we are using the old method like normally. So I'm so excited to adopt these new changes. To use software. So this is the purpose. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now, this is great. So 10 years of his experience
Okay,
working with Bechtel being one of the major firms in the United States. I know them. I have worked with them in the past. I wasn't their employee by any means, but I have worked them as a client. So they were my clients at one point. I have done a couple of projects with them as well. So yeah, it's a very good
nice.
experience. Bechtel, yeah, Bechtel is a very good firm, and I'm impressed that you have worked for them for over 10 years now. So keep it up. And yes, regarding the interest in this course, you'll see it very interesting. At least I can assure you that you'll definitely take a lot of things away from this course, even if it is not just as deep as like 3 semester courses, but you still will learn a lot of the tools and techniques as we go through each lecture. Yeah, it's not all about softwares. Yeah, so don't think about like, a course is only effective when you introduce a lot of softwares. It's not all about softwares learning. I mean, anyone can learn software. That's not easy. There's so many resources these days that you can learn any software very easily. But it is also about the critical thinking. What I value most in cost estimation is that how you think about certain problem. And I'll show you those techniques from my experience. So yeah. Anyone as last one, just last one, and then
Assalamu
I think
alaikum, sir.
wa alaikum assalam.
Sir, my name is Mohammad Afaq Khan. I'm a final year civil engineering student at UT Mardan.
Okay.
Sir,
Uh,
why we prefer PlanSwift or any other software in cost estimations? What's the main reason?
Okay, so if I can just say that I'll answer this question when I get to, I guess, slide number 16 or 17, would that be appropriate? Can you wait until then?
Yeah, sir, sure, I can wait. Thank you
Okay.
for your
So yeah, that's a
cooperation.
very good question, by the way. Don't take me wrong. This is a great question. And I'll answer this question any day. And I'll tell you why we are using PlanSwift over 3D, right? This is the original question, right? So I'll
Yes, sir.
answer this question definitely. But just, and I won't forget your name too. So once I get to that point, I'll call up on your name, and then we'll see if I answer your question or
Yeah,
not.
sir, thanks, sure.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, this is nice meeting you all. And like I said, this is going to be a very interactive session. Stop me anytime, raise your hand anytime. If I don't pay attention to the screen, just at least scream. So, or shout, or do something so at least I get your attention. But like I said, feel free. There's no right or wrong. There's definitely right, but no wrong. So, and also keep one thing in mind, is there's no question is a stupid question or a bad question. Any question is a good question. The fact that you are asking a question itself is a very good strategy, because you are taking interest, and so regardless of how big or how small the question is, any question will be entertained. Any question is a good question. Someone has raised hand, Muhammad Hubaib. Did I say your name right? Hubaib? Go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I'm Muhammad Khubab, a fifth semester civil engineering student at UIT Peshawar.
Nice.
And in fifth semester, we have a course BIM. We have learned the cost estimation, 3D simulation, 4D simulation, 5D simulation,
Yes.
using 3D models in Revit. And we can change the whole estimation by just changing the rate now. In formulas, we put the per unit rate. We can change the estimation at any time, whether it's on market demand. So why we use PlanSwift or other softwares like that?
Okay.
I can't get the answer. Earlier
Okay.
you have.
I guess you all have a concern about the wife thing. So I'll answer this question now. I won't wait until, like Afaq said, that I think Afaq pretty much asked the same question. So if I ask you that plumbing, right? So I'm also head of the MEP department at my work. So on top of my civil background, I also am leading the MEP, which is basically the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So I'm also leading that department as well in the cost estimation only. So if I ask you that in plumbing, do we have above grade piping and below grade piping? Would that be a fair statement? Right? So some sanitary piping, for example, those are also always under the ground, right? And then you have some sanitary piping going all the way up to the roof. So you have some piping that are above the grade, above the ground, above the grade, right? And then there are some piping that are below the grade. Can you estimate both of those pipes together? Can you price them together, even if the type is the same, even if they are both, for example, 4 inches copper piping or cast iron piping? Can the price be the same? Yes or no?
Yes, we have done it same
Yeah,
way.
so that the cost is not the same. Why? Now, because even though it's 4 inches above ground and 4 inch below ground, right? Same type cast iron, but the cost is still not the same. Why? Because for below grade, you have to do what? You have to do excavation. So now your excavation takes what? Takes labor hours, right? And takes your material. So now there's another factor that is added to the below grade piping, right? So in your estimating softwares, you cannot abruptly change those excavation factors right away. So for that particular reason, I'm not saying that the models are bad or that don't use the model. Yes, the model are good in some areas, but there are certain areas where you can not use the model. So for that reason, then your 2D is even better than the model. So towards the very end, I have explained that, but towards the very end of my slides, I have asked one question: which method is the best method? And my answer is there's no best method. All of those methods are good, but it depends on where you use them. In certain cases, your 2D will be the most efficient one. In certain cases, your 3D will be the most efficient. 3D model is very efficient, particularly when you are counting stuff. For example, you have light fixtures in a big examination hall, and you just have to count them, right? So your 3D model can easily export those and give you the counts right away. But if you have piping going all the way, all the way through the building with so many turns and twists and everything, then your 3D model is not as effective as it should be. Why? Because for the turns and twists, you have to allow for the waste factors. This much waste factor, that much waste factor. Then you have to do a lot of the insulations. So in that case, then we prefer 2D models. So to answer your question, that you can easily change just the parameters in your 3D models, and then the model will regenerate a new estimate. That is true, but you cannot say that that would be accurate estimation. Now, when company hires you to do a cost estimation for them, like for example, in the United States, when the government is approving a particular construction project to be built, they need at least 3 independent estimates before they can approve the funding. And those 3 estimates has to be at least within the plus minus 3% delta. So imagine if your estimate is more by 3%, that means that your estimate is not a good estimate, and the fundings will be restricted. So it's not as easy that you just say, okay, this is how many items I have, this is the unit price. All I'm doing is just multiplying it, and then I get the total cost. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you explained very beautifully. Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect.
I got the answer. Thank you so much.
Okay, no problem. Sure. So yeah, just stop me anytime and we'll go through this webinar together. So that's the introductory slide. So you saw that. And then I put up sort of like an agenda so that at least we are on track and at least we know what we are covering in today's webinar. Like I said, don't take this webinar as like a complete course. This is just an introduction of the course that is coming up. So do sign up for that course, and I'll share the form at the very end. But this is just to show you what we are intending or what we are planning to do in that cost estimation course. So today I'm going to be just talking about some very basic review of estimation concepts. Some of you might already know these concepts already because those are basics. Then I'm going to talk to you about the types of estimates, why one type is important versus the other. So we have 4 or 5 different types of estimates, and we'll talk about those. CSI format. Now, CSI format, every country has its own databases, its own reference point for cost estimation and stuff. The one we use in the United States is called the CSI format, and I'll talk to you about that. And you don't need to worry about the CSI format at this point, but I'll show you what CSI format is and all that. And then different estimating tools, like you guys had questions earlier about why we are using, PlanSwift versus not using the BIM or all the other tools. So those are my last slides, and I'll show you why we are using one versus the other. All right. So, we'll talk about the basics. So now, every single country, whether it's the United States, whether it's a Pakistan, whether it's a Gulf country, anywhere in the Gulf country, or the UK or the Australia, they have some sort of like a reference. Now that reference is basically a guide or a database where you are basically picking up your cost from. In the United States, that reference is called RS means. So what the United States do for their project is towards the end of every single year, they compile all the similar projects together, all the estimate of the projects that are completed in that particular. For example, we just published the 2024 RS means because we compiled all of the projects that were completed in 2024, and then we take a national average of those projects. All of the similar projects, like for example, there are school projects, there are middle school projects, high school projects, then there are university projects, then there are fire stations, then there are other health science buildings and all that. So every project in the same category, we compile them together, and then we take an average cost of all of the items related to the building materials. And that we use as a guide. So if you don't know, but that guide is not the end of the world, by the way. That guide is not accurate as well. So it is just a good reference. So for example, if I tell you that, okay, I need to estimate the cost of concrete in, for example, Peshawar, a location in Peshawar. So first, before you do any estimation, you need to have some sort of like a reference. What is the minimum price in Peshawar for concrete, for example, or brick or whatever material you are estimating. So you need to have some sort of reference. Okay, this material at least costs this much. For example, I don't know the price, but maybe 2,000 per cubic yard or something like that, or 3,000 rupees per cubic yard. So that is a reference, right? You cannot go lower than that, right? But that price can go up. It fluctuates because it depends on how competitive the market is, there, how many bidders are there, how many vendors have aggressive pricing, what is the labor rate there, and all those type of things will come into play. But that RS mean at least tells you that in Peshawar, you cannot buy concrete material cheaper than 3,000. So at least that is your starting point. So in the United States, we have the same reference called the RS means. So if I'm pricing something, for example, if I'm pricing a mechanical equipment, for example, air handling unit, it's a very giant mechanical equipment that we use in the buildings to ventilate and or heat or cool our buildings, right? If I have to price that one piece of giant equipment and I don't know anything about that equipment, at least I'll consult the RSMIN to give me some reference. And that RSMIN will tell you that this is the raw material, this is the roughly how labor hour would be, or how many labor hours it would take, and this is the equipment cost. At least it will give you a starting point. Then I can say, okay, you know what, this is $50,000 equipment. That means that RS means is pricing it at $50, so there's no way I can go lower than 50,000. From there on, you start building up your estimation. So every single country has certain sources, and those sources are some countries are calling them databases, national databases. Some are calling them RS means, like in the case of United States. In Pakistan, I don't know, but I'm sure there's a database that is also looking at different pricing for the material and all that. So RS mean is the standard for the
So
United
we have,
States. Mm-hmm.
sorry, sir, we call that MRS market rate system.
Yeah.
We still cost estimation from that book
Okay.
generally.
Okay. Good. Very good. Abdul
Are you getting
Qadir.
my point?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Good.
Hello.
We can hear you, Ikram. Okay. I see Abdul Qadir. Your hand is up. Go ahead, please.
Sir, in Pakistan, there are rate books like composite schedule rates. I think you have heard about it, CSR.
Yes.
Most of the time, government PC1s are they take rates from that book. Now, how do you differentiate the RS means from the CSR? I am a little confused there.
It could be the same thing. I mean, I haven't read CSR in detail, but it could be the same thing. But that's what I'm saying, that every single country has their own references. So, that book, I'll show you a picture of the RS means. That book tells you basically the rough hours of a particular item that would take to install. That book also tells you what would be the productivity. For example, for miscellaneous concrete, if we are installing miscellaneous concrete, it tells you that a crew of 14 people would complete 18 cubic yards per day. So that tells you the duration. You can also determine your schedule from that. You can also determine your daily productivity from that. So once you have some parameters, you can do a lot of manipulations and do analysis to get a lot of other things that you might be interested in, like, for example, schedule, like if you need to expedite the schedule or if you need to slow down the schedule, so many things that you can do. But the initial raw material, raw equipment cost, raw labor cost, those are all given to you in that book. So CSR might be the same thing. Like I said, I haven't seen it myself, but it might be.
Yes. I will add one thing. So this MRS, which is called CSR as well, they have individual item. for
Okay.
each cubic meter of concrete,
Yeah.
the labor cost, the material cost. They have detailed rate analysis for each item.
Yeah. No, during this presentation, I'll see if I can pull up the RSmean online version. There are the book version, the hard copy version, which is a very huge book. I cannot carry that book with me, but I have also access to my office online version of that book. So I'll bring that up so at least I can show you how it looks and where I look up for pricing and all that. So I'll show you that. And just remind me towards the end of the session so I can see if I can log in from here. I'm actually in Pakistan right now, so I don't know if I can log in. Yeah, like I said, I came here in very emergency. Like in 2 days, I had to book my flight and come here for a family emergency. So we'll see if my VPN would allow me to access my office. Okay, go ahead, Shoaib Hassan.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam.
Sir, I want to know what does RS stand for in RS means?
It's a reference. It's a reference. That RS is the reference in RS means. And means is basically the average data. You see arithmetic mean, the average means. So that is the reference average value. All good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when we talk about the building construction, typically when you have a bigger problem, right? When you have a bigger problem, especially for those of you who have worked in Primavera, you have worked in Primavera, you see like you have the WBS, right? Work breakdown structure, and you have that bigger problem at the top. And then from those bigger problems, you basically divide similar activities, and then, try to divide the workload in smaller pieces, and then you tackle the smaller pieces, and that's how you complete the whole project. Now, when we talk about construction in the United States, we break down construction, if I can say construction trades into smaller pieces. For example, if I have site work, all the work that is related into the site, I'll call that division 2. If I have concrete, I'll put them in division 3. If I have brick or masonry work, I'll put them in division 4. So in the United States, we have divisions. So division 1 is basically the contracting. So division 1 is all of those items which are pre-construction, all the contracting item, all the overhead costs. For example, your trailer on the site, your management team on the side, who your project manager is, who's your staff, and all those. So those are all covered in division 1. So all of the costs associated with division 1 or the overhead costs, we keep them in division 1. Once we go to the site work, so the first, after you sign the contract, what's the second thing you do in any construction project? So before you start any construction project, you have to sign the contract with the owner that you are the general contractor who's going to build that project for him, right? Right. So we're in this course, we're going to be talking from the general contractor perspective, right? Keep that in mind. This is very important. So if I'm, for example, if I have been asked that, okay, they need to build a 35 stories building in this place, right? And the owner is so and so, right? So the first thing I do is that I have to sign a contract with the owner that I'm going to be your general contractor. I have my team that I have to bring into this site, and I'm going to start building your project. So that contracting cost, all the overhead costs that I have to bring a temporary trailer to the site, I have to bring in all the temporary utilities to the site, the temporary offices, all the stationery, all the coffees, all the teas, the chai, everything that has to be under the general conditions. So division 1 is always the thing that is pre-construction. So we keep all the cost in the overhead cost in division 1. Now, what's the second step? Once you clear all the contracting, once you bring in all your team on the site, what's the second step you do? You clear the site, right? Right? If you follow the sequence of construction, that's how you do, right? First contracting, then the second thing is clearing the site. So if the site has any trees, any shrubs, any bushes, you start clearing them up, right? So site clearing is the second step. So site clearing is my second division in the CSI division. Now, CSI is Construction Specification Institute. So those are the institute that governs those divisions. After I do the clearing and removing all the organic materials from the site, what's my third step? Can anyone tell me? What's my third step? If my site, for example, don't worry about like building a 35-story. Think about like building a house in DHA Peshawar. So the first step is that you
Building
bought the plot,
codes.
right?
Building codes.
No, the first step
Layout,
is that,
we put layout in the third step.
very good, very good. Who said that? Yes.
Ikramul Ahad.
Okay, Ikramullah, very good. So you bought the plot and then you chose the contractor. So that was division one cost, all overhead cost, nothing related to construction itself, right? Just the site cost, right? Then we clear the site plot. We clear all the who the neighbor probably has some vegetable grown next to your plot or something. You start removing those, right? You clear the site. Or if you have a basement, you start digging up the basement, right? So when you dig up the basement, you clear the site. The third step is that you're going to be pouring concrete soon, right? Right? So the third step is pouring concrete in the foundation, or if there's a basement, you're going to start pouring the walls of the foundation, the retaining walls and all those type of things. So that's your third, hold on one second. So that's your third division. So that's why we keep concrete in division 3. Once we have the foundation laid out, once we have the footing and everything poured, what's the next step? We start building up the walls, right? We start erecting the walls. If those walls are supposed to be from brick, so we do the brick walls. If those walls are supposed to be from the blocks, we do the blocks, right? And those are bricks and blocks are going to go into division 4. Now division 5 is miscellaneous metals, 6 is wood, 7 all the way to 50 divisions. So this slide, the one I have it up on my screen, is basically telling you that how a typical construction project has been divided into 50 different segments, 50 divisions. So in the United States, we have divided one single project into 50 different divisions. Now, if I am supposed to be the contractor for installing the MEP in a building, right? Like I just mentioned earlier, MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Those are my division 21 through 28. So if I have to be pricing, or if I have to be, for example, if I have to be installing the brick on the building, so then I'll be only worried about the division 4 items. So that's how the sequence of the project is. So in the United States, they basically follow the sequence, how activities come one after the other, and that's how they divided the divisions as well. So this CSI division is also basically used for cost estimation purposes as well. Now, typically when I get a commercial project, and I'm also doing some side projects as well. So when I get a project from a client, they give me documents, this big documents. I have recently worked on a project which was 1,100 sheets, 1,100 drawings, those drawings, big sheet I'm talking about. That project was from site all the way to the acoustics of the building. And I was supposed to be, and I have my own team that I work with. I'm the lead estimator. And so in my team, I don't have to tell him who's going to do what. All I tell them is that, for example, Ikram, you're doing division 3 and 4. Omera, you are doing division 21 and 22. Sharif, you are doing division 15 and 16. Now, those people know what comes under those divisions. So I only specify the division numbers for them, and then from there on, they take what they are supposed to estimate. So in one project, it's not just one person doing all of the work. One project you get, and then we distribute the load. So for example, recently I worked on a project and I was supposed to do the MEP parts on the project. So it was a huge project, and all they asked me is that they only need an MEP package on that one. So I skipped all of the division. I straight went to division 21 because division 21 starts with MEP, starts with the sprinkler system. And then division 22 is the plumbing. Division 23 is the HVAC. And then so division 26 is the electrical, 27 is telecommunication, 28 is fire alarm and all those type of things. and I only priced 21 through 28 and I gave them my package. They probably have asked someone else to do the other divisions. At the end, they compile them together, and that's how a typical estimate works. Right? Is that clear? Does that make sense? Yes, no, maybe?
Sir, if they are taking all from RS means, so all the people who are doing this estimation would be same.
That's a
So
great, that's a great
what is
question.
the difference? I didn't get it.
Okay, that's a great question, actually. So RS means, yeah, I was actually hoping someone would ask me this question, but this is a good question. So no one is going to be using the RS means. I said RS mean is the last resort. So typically you get pricing from the industry itself. For example, I'll give you a simple example so you can understand. For example, if I have to change a bulb in my room, right? So I'm not going to go to RS means to see how much a bulb would cost me. Yes, for my own little research, I would just ask someone, hey, I'm gonna replace this bulb. How much do you think, this is gonna cost me? And they'll give you a rough value, like for example, 100 rupees or 200 rupees. So in that particular case, that 100 or someone tells you that is your RS mean reference. But you're not gonna just go take 200 rupees and thinking that, yes, this bulb is exactly gonna cost 200 rupees. No, you're gonna go to the market, at least take 3, 4 prices from 3 different vendors, and then decide. So that price is not going to be exactly the same as the 200, because like I said, that is the minimum. Someone might have to price it at 250, someone will be 280, someone will be 290, someone will be 300. So then you just basically choose the best price, right? Now, the second part is that if everyone is using RS means their estimate is going to be the same, right? So the second part is the profit level, right? There are contractors who desperately need to go out and get work. So they compromise on their own profit. For example, I'm a company and I have 10 other people running a company, and then we are all 10 bidding on one job. We're all competitors, right? We're competing with one another. So in order for me to get that job, I want to compromise on my profit. If that person is getting a 10% profit on their project, I'll just give them an incentive. And I said, okay, I'll get 8%, but I desperately need to get it. So this is where companies are not going to share their information with one another, especially when they're in competition with one another, right? They are competitors. So I might have a trick that I know that these companies are going to get 15% profit on there, even though, we might have the same pricing, unit pricing, material pricing, labor pricing. But on top of that, in order for me to get that job, I might just compromise on my profit. And I say, okay, I'm charging 7%. And that would probably, lower my bid, and the lower bidder always wins the job. Does that make sense? Omer, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. And also, the other thing is, you can get material pricing straight from vendors, from RS means, so many other references. That is easy. One of the toughest thing to estimate is the labor. For example, the same bulb. If I estimate that, a labor would take 1 hour to replace that bulb, my competitor might say, okay, it might take 30 minutes. So there's another difference, right? So it depends on who's the lower bidder then, right? So there's always difference. It's not that, someone is using RS means or this person. RS mean is just the last resort when you have absolutely no clue. When you don't know anything about it, at least for reference, you consult the RS means or any other references so that you can, it just gives you a good starting point. But RS mean is definitely not the solution for cost estimation or any other references, because why? Because those are average numbers. For example, I'll give you a good example too. For example, the state that I live in the United States, it's Virginia. It's very next to the Washington, D.C. area, just 20 minutes outside the Washington, D.C. area. If I hire an electrician, and then there is a state called California. So California is at least 5 hours flight from my place. If I have to hire an electrician in Virginia, it would cost me $75 an hour. But if I have to hire an electrician in California, imagine the same countries. They are the same countries, just different states. In California, that hourly rate is $150 per hour. So you see, it depends. There's a location factor. There's also a something called the project factor, which basically tells you how accessible that project is. Some projects are very easily accessible. You have just main entrance, the trucks can come in easily. Some projects are very narrow, tight. So if your project is in a very tight location, what's that gonna do? It's gonna drop the productivity, right? You're gonna produce less items per day. Versus if a project is just in open ground, you can just bring in all your trucks and you can produce more items per day, right? You see the prices are going to be fluctuating, the prices. So those are the factors that I'm talking about, that when we were earlier talking about that cost estimation is not just quantities times the unit cost. There are so many other factors that we have to look into. All right. So enough discussion on the references, right? So this is how it looks like. You see, I have just a reference picture, for example, this is the concrete division. So like I said, concrete is mostly covered in Division 3 in the United States. So you see I have Division 3 up at the top. This is how RS mean looks like. This column is called the crew, and I'll explain what a crew is in the next slide or so. This is the daily output, how much this crew can produce in one day. So this is basically 15.62 cubic yards. If I use a crew C14A, it's going to give me 15.62 cubic yards per day. This is the labor hours. That's the labor hours. That's the unit, cubic yards. That's the bare material. That's the minimum material per cubic yard. Bare material means that you have the cost without any taxes, without any fringes or any markups or anything, just out of the shelf. You see how when you buy something in the store, in a grocery store, the shelf price is, for example, 10 rupees. When you do checkout and it adds up the sales tax and all that, it costs you at least 12 rupees, right? So those $2 extra. So the bare cost is when there are no taxes, no markups, right off the shelf price. And the total price is after the markups, after the profit and everything. And then this is the total cost after total, including O&P. O&P means overhead cost and profit, right? So on every single item, the contractor is going to make profit from you. And that profit is sometime in percentages, 10%, 15%, depends on what the contractor charges. But I just wanted to show you how RS mean looks like. So this is just a picture. So next slide, this is what I want to talk about. So I just mentioned that one of the most critical or one of the most difficult thing to estimate in any cost estimation is the estimation of the labor. It's not that easy. It's not straightforward. So you have to do a lot of the research. You have to do a lot of the things before you can estimate how many hours a particular job would take. So when we talk about construction labor hours, it's not the labor hour for one worker. Usually there are a group of workers called the crew. So for example, if I have a concrete job that I have to do, miscellaneous concrete, I'm pouring concrete somewhere. So I'm not just gonna start estimating hours for one worker, then second worker, then third worker, then fourth worker. It doesn't work like that. What that means is that if I have a concrete job, typically a concrete job would require a C14 crew. So every crew has its own combination of people. In this case, just for an example, this case C14 crew has one carpenter, foreman, 16 this is the first is the foreman, the second one is 16 carpenters, then 4 rodmen, 2 laborers, 1 cement finisher, 1 equipment operator, 1 gas engine vibrator, and 1 concrete pump swab. So when I'm estimating the hours, I'm not going to be estimating the hours for everyone single individually. I'm going to be just estimating their hours as a whole. When I'm estimating their hours as a whole, that means the crew hours, not the labor hours. So any building material, because in construction, there is no single activity that one person can do other than just, giving a water bottle to other people. That's the construction. But if you think about any construction activity, whether it's a concrete, whether it's laying bricks, whether it's erecting the steel, any activity, you would need at least 4 or 5 people. One might be doing one thing, the other might. So it's always in the group. It's always in the group. It's not just individual work. Construction doesn't work in individual labor hours. So that's why when we are using the labor hours, we are using the crew labor hours. We're not using individual labor. So this is where most people make a mistake. They don't think about the hours. So this is the labor hours for one day. Now, one day you might say, oh, there are only 24 hours, but this is the crew labor hours. You see 200 labor hours. So in one day, a crew of 14, with the code 14, they spend 200 hours, 200 hours, because one day is 8 hours, right? And if you add everyone's 8 hours, this is gonna, make it up to 200 hours per day. So a crew will you're going to be charged for 200 hours. You're not going to be charged for 8 hours. If your crew works for one day, it's not 8 hours charge. It's going to be 200 hours. So are you guys following it? At least if someone can acknowledge. I don't know if I'm making sense or not. At least I need some sort of like responses
Yes,
from.
sir. Understood.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So accrue hours are different than if I just have one labor work for one day, I'm gonna only pay him for 8 hours, right? But if I have a C14 crew working for one day, I'm gonna be paying 200 hours because C14 crew, the formation is different. So that's where a lot of if concrete C14 crew is working for one day, it's gonna at least cost you $9,000 per day. And then, this is the daily, this is the hours, this is the daily, then the hours, and then the total, so, and all that, right? So
Excuse me, sir.
you have to understand that when we are doing cost estimation, particularly in commercial construction, it's always the crew hours. So you have to understand what your crew size is, how your crew is made up of. If your job is smaller, then you can just adjust the crew accordingly, so it doesn't cost you for many hours. So you can just maybe go to a C12 or a C10 or a C8 crew. But every time when we do construction labor hour estimation, it always has to be the group hours, not just the individual hours. So this is what exactly I mean when I say crew hours. And later on, I'll show you also what crew hours are used for and all those. But I just wanted to make sure that, yes, sir.
Excuse me, sir.
Sir, this last column, what does this indicate? Last two columns. Bare cost per labor hour. How is it calculated?
Which one? This one?
43.29 and 3.82 plus 47.12. How do we get this?
So this is the bare cost per hour. So this is the bare cost per hour, right? So we have 200 hours. So like I said, bare cost is the cost without any markups, without any, in the case of material, we have sale taxes on material, right? Right? When we have, for example, we decide to buy a material, when we are checking it out, there are sale taxes and everything. But in the case of laborers, what are the markups? The markups are the fringes. Because if you have hired this crew, what are you doing for this crew, or what are you giving for this crew? You are giving the health insurances, you are giving the benefits, you are giving so many other worker compensations and all those type of things. So those are the fringes. Those are called fringes for the labor. So in the material cases, the markups are the taxes, all the other things. In the case of labor, it's the fringes, it's the benefits. So that's why bare cost for labor is the labor cost without the benefits, without the workers' benefit. And then the cost including overhead profit, that means that when the bare costs, similar to like if you guys are in government sector, there's a term called the basic pay scale, right? So basic pay scale is one number, then you add up all the allowances, right? Because you are basically a worker, a government worker. And at the end, your salary is not the basic pay. With all
Sir.
those are your fringes. So your takeaway is a lot more than the basic, right? Similar here. So the bare cost for a labor is without those fringes, with just the basic pay, And then your overhead and profit is the profit with the labor cost, with all the allowances, with all the benefits, with all the health insurances and all that. So that's why there's a two. And then the total overhead and profit cost will always be higher than the beer one, because the beer is just the basic pay. Think about it this way. Yes, Musawwir Khatak. I see someone's hand is up, and Musawwir Khatak. If you were trying to, okay, go ahead.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Sir, I am talking about MEP estimation.
Yes.
You didn't mention the MEP estimation.
Did I not mention the MEP? So what do you want to hear about the MEP at this point?
I mean, how we will include this in course? How we will study? Is
For that, you're gonna sign up for this course. We have a whole section on
yes,
MEP.
I
This is
will
a
I will
webinar. This is a webinar. I'm trying to just give you an overview of what uh, a typical cost estimation looks like, or what. I mean, I'm not even supposed to cover in this much detail, but I just want to give my audience a flavor
I
of
mean
what.
I want to say that we will cover like whole MEP plumbing etc. for fighting and HVAC.
So if you're talking about the course, which is going to be the 5 months, are you talking about the 5 months diploma that you were going to
Yes,
be teaching?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So for that course, MEP, we're going to be covering anything that is related to a commercial building MEP. So a commercial building MEP, for example, if I take plumbing, so in plumbing you have at least 5 things. The first one is the equipment, all your pumps and everything. So those are part of your equipment package. Then the second is the fixtures, the plumbing fixtures. That includes your shower, your urinals, your bowls, your water closets, all those fixtures, right? The plumbing fixture. The third one is the domestic piping. So that includes your water piping, hot water, cold water, hot water return, those piping. The fifth one is the sanitary waste piping. Those are all your waste and vent piping. And the sixth one is the storm piping. So those are all your storm piping. So those are the 6 items at least that are going to be covered on every single commercial project. We're talking about, by the way, one thing, keep in mind, we're talking about the commercial cost estimation. We're not talking about residential. Residential, you don't need for example, storm water management, or you don't need so many HVAC equipment. For residential, you can cool or heat your rooms by just a split unit, right? So when we're talking about cost estimation in this course, it's going to be commercial buildings like 35 stories big, buildings like 500,000 square feet wide, stuff like that. Real commercial estimation. This is not a residential estimation. So think about it this way. So when we talk about the commercial cost estimation, then your plumbing at least has 6 different items, just the plumbing alone. Then your HVAC, you have equipment, you have ductwork, you have mechanical piping, you have insulation, you have so many other units. So those are part of your HVAC package. Then we talk about the electrical. So electrical, your power distribution, your lighting controls, your fire alarm, your telecommunication, your audio visual. So all those things. So that's why earlier when you said what we are going to talk about MEP, at least it's going to take at least 3-4 weeks for me to cover all of the MEP, even if I do it quickly, because MEP alone can be just a giant animal, because MEP cost is one of the most significant cost in any commercial building. It is because of the sophistication and the equipment being very expensive. Did that answer your question?
No, sir, I got it.
Okay, you got it?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I have a question. For example, if you are using C14 AcreU, and in this there's a lot of options. If we are not using the gas engine vibrator, so how can we select this from this overall rate? Because we are not using any specific point. So how can we use the overall rate, or we should remove the specific?
We can adjust the crew according to our needs and size. We can just delete this one line item. You form your own crew. RS min gives you RS min gives you a reference of a typical crew. So this is a typical crew. If you ask RS min, like for example, if I don't know how much my miscellaneous concrete would cost me, so I'm just gonna go. RS min is just like a chat GPT. Think about it this way. If I just go to a chat GPT and I ask chat GPT or any Google searches that, hey, I'm doing this much project, what do you think, how many workers do I need? And you know, chat GPT or any of the searches will tell you, oh, you would need this many you know, this many people to do this. Exactly the same thing as RS means. RS mean tells you that if you're asking me, RS mean is basically saying, if you're asking me, this is how many labor would you need for this project. But then it's up to you if you want to use the full crew or if you want to just adjust it. That's up to you. You don't have to use if you don't need it, don't you need it. You can just delete it, just cross, and then just reduce the size of your crew. Because if the job is small, of course I want to use a smaller crew so that, you know, my hours are not that many to cost me, right?
Thank you, sir. Go
Yeah. Abdul Qadir.
Sir, we discussed the crew in detail, but it is like that we are paying them with respect to time, hours. Like in Pakistan, we usually call it wages or dihadi. But there is another type of payment method in which we use the measurements with respect to the amount of work they done. Like, for
Yes.
example, we hire a subcontractor and we pay them over the floor area like this.
Yes.
Is there any format and that type included in
Yes,
CSI?
that's a good question. That's a very good question. And I think I don't know, I'll see, but I think I have a conversion. Sometimes your price for labor is just by producing the number of units. So sometimes it all depends on how you write your contract with your owner. Some owner, I like I said, I'm a contractor, contract administrator at my workplace as well. So I write all those contracts as well. So sometimes when we do contracts, we are not doing a labor hour contract where I say, okay, you know, just not per labor. Sometimes we just do it by the number of units we produce. For example, the owner might just say, okay, once you produce 200 units of 200 cubic yards of concrete, I'll pay you this much. Then that, you know, eliminates the cost per hour of the labor. You know, so it depends on how you write the contract with the owner. If the owner say, no, I just don't want to do the, you know, the units produce, if I want to just do labor hours, how many hours you spend, and I'll pay you for that, then, you know, you just do labor per hour. But in Pakistan, like you said, the hardy and all that, in Pakistan, we don't do it by per hour. But in the United States and all the Gulf countries and all the UK and Europe, they're all, the labor is always by per hour rate. So it'll be $10 per hour, $15 per hour. And if they work for 8 hours, you just multiply 10 times 8. That's the hardy for the day. So 160, 140 per day. Depends. Is that clear?
Yes, but can we manage our estimates or like the divisions you discussed early with respect to the measurements or producing units, not by with respect to time?
That's what I exactly said, that you can definitely do by producing the number of units. Like I know what you are talking about. Sometimes you'll just say, okay, I don't want to do by the hardy. I just want to do it by like one lump sum. You just tell me that this is how much it's gonna. For example, if I have to haul off 15 cubic yards of dirt from one location to another location, so you can do it both ways, right? You can just say, okay, you put one labor on it, and then, you know, just counting his hours, or you can just say, okay, give me one lump sum, and you have this many days. Once you finish the work, regardless of how many hours he spends or how many hours per day he works, you're just paying the lump sum. So the contract can be written in any way you want. It could be just per hour day, per hour rate, per day rate, or per the number of units produced per day, or per the number of units produced per week. It all depends on how you write the contract. And then,
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, but before moving to that, I think we must highlight the types of estimations used, like from fixed cost reimbursable, parametric, rough order magnitude,
Yes.
optimistic, pessimistic, most likely, like type of estimation used in our daily life.
Yes. So no, that's good. But the way I have structured this webinar, like I said, it's not a traditional classroom teaching. So I just wanted to bring in some of the concepts or some of the terminologies, I would say, so that at least my audience or my students are familiar with when I'm using this terminology in my course, people would know what a crew is now. People would know what a daily output is right now. So towards the second half of this presentation, you'll see all the types of estimates I have there, and I'll talk about those, why one estimate is different than the other estimate. But at least the basic, if you don't even know the basic, and I'm talking about it in the class, you would not understand. Like, for example, how many of you how many of you knew about the crew hours before, right? Not a lot, maybe some do, but not all of them, right? So now next time when I go to the class and I talk about the crew hours, people would know what a crew means. It's not the singular. So the way I structure my courses is that at least I wanna, in my first couple of introductory lessons, I wanna bring in those terminologies so that people can recall them, or at least, memorize them. If they don't know the exact calculations behind all of the terminology, but at least they know what it means when I bring them up in the class. So that is the strategy. Otherwise, I could have easily pull up the other sites first and do these things later. But I mean, that's just how I see it. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but this is what I think, I guess. Sharif, please go ahead.
Yeah, sir, my question, the duration, like 5 months, why we need 5 months for this course? Like most of the participants are engineers, they have the basic knowledge. So is
Well, the material
it
itself,
5 months?
well, I mean, the material itself is a lot. I mean, do you want to just just scratch the surface, or you want to just go in depth of all of the divisions? If you want to go just scratch the surface, I can finish this course in 1 month. Then you don't need that Monday. But one of you guys earlier asked me, what are you going to cover any MEP? So if I have to do an MEP, I have to literally teach the civil guys the mechanical and electrical system before I can teach them estimations, right? Right? Because it's not going to be easy for a civil guy to understand the MEP estimation right away. So I have to develop their foundation first. So if I don't develop their foundation, I just do the basic, they're not going to be, for example, I'm a civil engineer. I have a very strong background in civil engineering, but I am a very, very, very good estimator of MEP divisions as well. But I just did not learn it by knowing the basics of MEP. I had to dig deep into the MEP and learn it. So if you want me to do the surface scratching, I can finish this course in 1 month, maybe less than 1 month. But if we have to dig deep into the estimation to know to you want to price the whole project, right? You just don't want to do just parts and pieces, right? You want to do the whole project estimation. So if you want to do that, I probably would say it takes a long time. I mean, MEP would take me at least 2 months to bring in a civil guy from MEP background to from civil to MEP estimation. So that's why I guess that's why. Go ahead, please.
Thank you.
Okay, Sharif, your hand is still up. Do you have other question, or can I just move on?
That's fine, sir. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So daily, another terminology that we use, and I think we just already talked about, is the daily output. So what a daily output is that the number of units that you produce by the crew, not by just one worker. So now you know what a crew means, right? So when a crew produce a number of units per day, that is the daily output. For example, if we're talking about the same concrete, a crew of C14A would produce at least 18.55 or almost 19 cubic yards per day. So that would be my daily output. Daily output does not mean the output of one worker per day. okay, this worker has produced 5 units or 5 cubic yards, the other worker had 2. No, it doesn't work this way. When we're talking about commercial construction, we're talking about the crew daily output, how much work a crew can produce in one day. And one day mean 1 8 hours day. There's a difference because every time you go past that 8 hours, then the rate changes. Then you go into the overtime. Then that rate is different also. So when we are talking initially, when we do the estimation, we are assuming that this is a regular 8 hours day, no overtime. Later, if we have to do double shifts or if we have to do night shift, then you adjust for those factors. So daily output is basically the number of units of any material you produce in not you produce, a crew produces in any 8 hours day or any 8 hours time. So that's the daily output, simple. And then that's how you do the labor hours calculations. If you know the daily, again, the RS means will tell you a rough daily output for a particular job. If you're doing miscellaneous concrete, or if you're doing a cast in place concrete, or if you're doing any type of concrete, at least it will tell you that this is how much it would cost you, it will produce you per day. And from there on, you can just basically calculate your number of hours um, per unit produced. So this is a simple calculation. I mean, I can share the slides with you, but you can also download this from the Google, but I can share these slides. So these are all simple calculations. Let's see next. All right, so the same example. Total overhead and cost. I think some of the slides we already talked about. So we have the bare cost, which again, any cost which is outside the markups, or markups are not include sale taxes in case of material. In case of labors, no fringes, no benefits and all that. So those are all the bare costs. But when we add, yeah.
Can we say the bare cost is the base price, the base cost?
So in case of material, what do you mean by base, by the way?
Base is something like that is fixed without profit.
Yeah.
I have seen in some estimation, like for example, if you are doing the PCC, they have written at the end bracket that is base price.
Okay. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. The base price is basically the way I say it when I'm teaching it is that it's the price of the shelf. So when you go to, for example, any grocery store and you walk in and you see, like, on the shelf, it has price on it. So you pick that up, right? For example, 20 rupees, 30 rupees. Then you just gather all your shopping cart and then take it to the checkout. So when you do the checkout, then the checkout includes all the taxes and everything. So that shelf price is different than the checkout price, right? It's slightly more. So that's why its bare cost is the shelf price. So in case of construction, when we do the construction material, the bare cost is the material cost itself without any taxes, without any checkout, without any freight charges. By the way, freight charges, because a lot of your construction material would require shipping. Some would require big rental trucks. So their base, the bare cost does not include the rentals, the shipping costs, the freight charges, all those type of charges. But when you do cost, including the overhead and profit, that includes the markups, that includes the taxes, the freight charges, the taxes, and everything. So that's how I differentiated off the shelf and after the checkout. Also, this overhead and profit. So in overhead and profit, so if a contractor is producing you, for example, 10 cubic yard of concrete, so the concrete is the contractor is not going to just charge you what he bought the material for. He's not going to only charge you for that. So he's going to charge you for all the material that costed him. On top of that, he wants to make some profit of that, right? He's not going to just go and just say, okay, here's the receipt. I bought this for this much and you just pay me this. No, right? He's gonna go in there and he's gonna make some profit of that. So when he installs it, typically that profit is 10% on smaller projects, actually larger projects, and 15% on smaller projects. Right? So 15% of the total base cost goes into his profit. And this is where earlier I also spoke to, I think, Umera, when I was explaining that the cost estimation, the competitors, my competitor, if I know that my competitor is using 10% or 15% profit margin, and if I really want to win a job, I might just compromise on my profit. I might just say, okay, you know what, I want to use 7% or 8% so that I become the low bidder and win the job. So there are so many tricks that you can do to win the job. Especially when you are in the active bidding industry. By the way, there are cost estimation in two different sectors that we use. One sector being the active bidder, where a general contractor competes with so many different general contractors on a particular job to become a lower bidder and win the job and then build the job. There's another cost estimator who's doing the budgeting. That cost estimator is not actively bidding the job. He only put together the budget for the owner. So before the owner display the project into the bidding, at least that cost estimator has given him the price that this is the pricing that you will be seeing. So at least he knows some knowledge about the total cost of the project. So yeah, so in my company, I'm doing the budgeting. I'm not actively looking for projects to build. I'm the pre-construction bidder where I help owner establish a cost estimation. Once I give him the cost estimation, then he can go out to any active bidders. And if the bidders cannot check him, then because he has already consulted me that this is how much it's going to cost him. So there's two ways the cost estimator can work, one from the general contractor perspective, one from the owner perspective. All right, so I believe, Azam, this is the slides you wanted to see, right? The types of estimates, right? So
Yes, sir. This is the right one.
So in typically, the names might be different. These are the names that we use in the United States industry, but typically, and I guess the names are all same all over the place, but this might be slightly different than one another. And that's why you see that I have put an or in between those two statements so that at least you know one or the other. So conceptual or feasibility study estimate, that is the estimate. It's in a very, very early phase when we don't have any, when we don't have a lot of information about the project. So we do an early phase estimate or a feasibility study estimate. And also then after that, once we pass the conceptual, then the next step is the schematic, then the design development, and then the construction document. So I'll explain one by one, just briefly so that you know what's the difference between one and the other. So when we talk about the conceptual estimate, that is the estimate where you will have a lot of options. For example, you are trying to build a house. What's the first step you're going to do? So you're going to think about the community, right? Which community should I buy a plot first? Should I buy in DHA? Should I buy in Bahria town or so many other towns, right? So so those are all your options. Those are all your concepts. And then you just say, okay, if I buy a plot in DHA, it's going to cost me this much. If I buy a plot in Bahria town, it's going to cost me this much. Or if I, buy in a third community, it's going to cost me. So at this point, conceptual estimate, you don't have a lot of information. You are still figuring out where exactly you want to do the project, how you want to do a project. Doesn't necessarily have to be the location of the project at this point. It could be in the same location, but you still don't know whether you want to do 5 stories or 2 stories or 3. So you are so divided at this point. You are so confused at this point, but you want to do a project. So that's where you do the conceptual estimate. That's when you talk to a cost estimator, and he, with just that limited information that he has, he doesn't know a lot, but he's just reading your mind and he's writing down some statements, and based on that, he produces you a rough estimate. That's why it's called a rough order of magnitude estimate and that's why it's also called the feasibility estimate. Why this term feasibility is very important if you think about it. Feasibility is it feasible for me or not? And this is, if it is not feasible for me, so I can drop my idea early in the process. I don't want to go all the way to the design phase and then say, oh, it's not feasible for me when I paid 6 lakhs already to the engineer to design me. I'm not going to drop my project at that. this is where I have to decide whether this project is feasible for me or not feasible for me, right? And then you can either pursue the project or you can drop the idea. So that's why it's also called the feasibility estimate. That's why it's also called the conceptual. This is just a concept. I don't know. So typically in my experience, when a client comes to me and he's only looking for, like I said, again, I'm giving you examples for the sake of simplicity. I'm using like a small houses example, but really just as commercial estimation. So commercial estimates, when I deal with the client, I give them a price, but in my disclaimer, I write at the end that this estimate is only conceptual based on the information provided by the owner. This. So in my experience, typically, when I have priced the conceptual estimate and then the same project went into the actual design estimate, there's always like a 30-40% delta, sometimes 25-30%. And those estimates are based on similar projects that you have completed in the past. So based on that historical projects that you have done in the past, you bring in all your knowledge in and you just tell the owner. But that price is usually between 20, 25, all the way up to 30% different than the actual cost estimate. If you bring it to that level, you still be a good estimator, conceptual wise I'm talking about, not the CD. CD, you have to be only within 2 to 3%. So that's the conceptual. Very limited details, like I said, and it's a ballpark number. It's just one. Sometimes it's not even specifying all the divisions or specifying all the items. It just gives you one number. For example, I was working on a project and then the client was asking me for a ballpark number. And all I did is that I asked him, what's your total gross square foot? He told me it's 20,000 square foot. And I used, for example, $300 per square foot for the entire building. That $300 per square foot included all of the trades. And I multiplied that by 20,000 square foot, and I gave him the ballpark number. I said, your project should be roughly. So sometimes those ballpark number could be just a one or two statements, right? Because we don't have a lot of information. So based on your previous projects, similar projects that you have completed, you just bring in those knowledge and then you just produce your very, very, very early conceptual estimate. This is a project I have completed. This was a school project. When I talk about the different options, right? So this was a client that came to me. I cannot display the client information for copyright thing or privacy thing, but this was a client that came to me, and that client was telling me that he has three options. Basically, he gave me three options. So the first option was that this is a school, by the way. This is an elementary school. So he told me that he wants to do a major renovation in the school. So that yellow part that you see, this was the renovation of the building. So he only gave me just a rough sketch and said that majority of my building is going to be renovation. And that green part you see, he said, those are my addition. Addition mean that I want to build some additional classrooms and stuff like that. So he said, most of my work is renovation, the existing building, but there's some addition that I also want to build to this existing building. So that's one option. So he asked me to produce him one estimate for this option. Then he said, what if I divide? I do half of the renovation. I'm not doing the entire building renovation. So you just do half of the renovation. And then the other half, I'm building a new building right next to it. So this is addition. So when we are developing or building another building right next to an existing building, we call it the addition, right? Addition to an existing building. So then he said, okay, what if I decide that I have half of it as addition, building a new structure, and half of it I'm renovating it, right? So then he said, okay, give me another estimate for this option. I said, okay. And then he said the third option. He said, okay, forget about the renovation. What if I just completely tear down the existing building, completely remove the existing structure, and I want to build a brand new project, a brand new school. And that's why you see that it is all green. So now this is all addition. It's just all brand new school. what would be the cost for that? What the owner is trying to see that what's the difference between these three options? Of course, this option is going to cost more, right? But then he wants to see how much more. If it is in his range, he might just go end up, build a new building so that he can no longer worry about the renovation of the building. But as an estimator, I had to produce three different estimates. And that's also based on very limited knowledge. So this is why people would say, oh, what is conceptual estimate used for when you're not going to use it anyway? Well, I cannot use it anyway, but at least I can help the owner decide which option he wants to pursue, right? I'm not saying that take my conceptual estimate and bid on it, or take it to the market and bid on it, right? But at least I'm helping the owner to choose his options, right? I'm at least giving him some options. So that's why your conceptual estimate is important too, right? Isn't it? It's not always the final estimate that is important where you know the actual price. No, it's not. Sometimes your decision making comes from the very concept. Now, what if so at this point, at least the owner is going to drop two options, right? He's going to drop two options. So this is also called the feasibility. Which one is feasible to him? What if the owner budget does not allow to do a complete revamping of the building? What if he can only do renovations? So then he would go with this option. So you see, I'm trying to understand the importance of conceptual estimate. The conceptual estimates is not just a rough order of magnitude, and you cannot use it for nothing, right? You definitely use it for decision making. And secondly, feasibility, that word feasibility, that keyword feasibility that we just talked about, right? So feasibility is if this project is feasible or not, right? Is it feasible for him? Does the budget allow? Does the schedule allow? Because in the United States, the school has a very tough schedule. September 1st, if you are building a school and if you missed it, the deadline, you have liquidated damages. Now, I don't know how many of you know the liquidated damages, but liquidated damages, every time a contractor delays a project because of his fault, he's going to pay charges per day. For example, I was on a project and we were on a very strict project. And if we had to miss the schedule or miss the deadline, we had to pay $1,000 every day to the owner. So in school, the liquidated damages are very high. Now, if I talk about liquidated damage, that's going to be another topic. This is also under contracting and all that, but liquidated damages can be very significant sometimes. So all these decisions are done at the very early estimates. Is that clear? Anyone has any questions? Does that make sense? Yes,
sir,
no,
it's
maybe?
clear.
It's clear, sir.
Okay. All right, cool. So see, this is again, sometimes if the owner is kind enough, he'll probably give you sketches like this, very rough sketches. He will tell you this is where I want to build the basketball court. This is where I want to do the oh, you just saw the name. So here's the name of the school. This is I want to build up the building pad. This is I want to have the restricted play area and all that. So sometimes conceptual estimate owner might give you a sketch like this and then ask you to estimate. But you got the idea that why conceptual estimates are equally important. Then once you pass through the conceptual estimate, the feasibility estimate, or the decision-making estimate, I would say, once you pass that phase, then the next step is the schematic design. Now, schematic designs, this is where you have chosen your options. Remember, we talked about in the conceptual estimate, we are looking for the best option for us. So that best option has already been chosen at this point now. So we have already chosen our option. Now we are in the second phase. So in this schematic phase, now the designer has already worked on it, has already worked on the option that the owner is pursuing. So at this particular stage, the design is only 30 to 40% complete. And then, the owner is asking you, can you give me another estimate? Now, if I ask you guys, why would this be important that the owner is asking me to give him an estimate when the project is only 30 to 40% designed? Why? Can anyone tell me? Why would it be important? Why the estimate would be important at this point? Like just I talked to you about importance of the conceptual estimate, right? What is the importance of the schematic design estimate when the project is only 30 and 40% designed?
Sir,
Sir, he wants to keep an eye on the budget. Second line में लिखा है sir.
Exactly. I was just trying to see if you guys are exactly. You want to see, ideally, you want to see, keep an eye on the budget. At this point, when the owner is not the owner, the owner could be the designer too, but if the design team is designing the project, right? Ideally, as he's designing, he wants to keep, because he has a set budget from the owner. The owner is saying, this is my budget. You cannot go past that. So design me a project. I want these things in my project, but the budget should not go up from this number. So then, the designer is obligated to keep an eye on the project. If he's designing outside the project, so at least he can restrict himself and do alternates. So that's the importance. So at this point, at least the designer, the architect, the engineers, or the MEP engineers, the structure, at least they have layouts of the building. At least they know the square foot areas of the building. So this is how it's gonna, by the way, this is the same project that I showed you at the conceptual level. This is where now that project went from the conceptual into the second phase, the schematic design. And now I see, at least I have the areas all highlighted. There's still a lot of information missing. I don't know a lot of the details on the drawings, but at least I know the areas. So now I can easily take all the areas and produce an estimate, right? So once we pass that stage, now we are into the DD stage. We call it the design development. That's when you actually almost close to complete the design. At this particular point, your design is basically 80 to 90% complete, right? So you have worked extensively. The design team has worked extensively to produce that design. And then the project is going towards the completion. At this point, then some buildings, not all of the government projects would require the DD estimate. Sometimes they just skip the DD and they just say, just give me the final estimate, but some do require, because they still at this point can do some alternates. For example, if I was recently on a project, that project was in the CD, which is the step next to DD. I was in the CD, and all of a sudden I got a phone call from the owner saying that I wanna know the estimate of the project, but I want to do an alternate on that project. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he goes like, in such area, I have used very expensive light fixtures. And I want to see the estimate with those expensive fixtures. And then I want to see one estimate replacing those expensive fixtures with a cheaper one. So I want to see how much I can save on those lights, right? So you're getting my point. So then I said, okay, fine. So I gave him an estimate including, and I called that estimate as the base estimate. So I told him, okay, this is your total cost, including that expensive light fixtures. And then I gave him another estimate saying that, okay, now in this estimate, your expensive lighting has been replaced with the cheaper ones. So then he looked at the both estimate, and there was only a difference of 1 million. And he goes like, forget it. It's not that significant. We can just go with the base estimate. So
Sir,
at
it
this
is
is also a DD type of questions. This is also a DD type of communication that you do with your owner. They might still do some alternates. So that's why I have put it up that there are still alternates that can be done. Not the whole project cannot be redone at this point, but at least some sections can still be refined, right? So and in DD, you'll see that the design is looking at more complete. You have more dimensions given, you have more value shown on the drawings and all that, but still like, that final push is left like that 10%. And then the final estimate is basically the CD estimate, which is the construction documents estimate, right? Complete. At this point, the design is complete. Generally, you only have tweaks here and there. The owner might just call you, hey, change this number. I don't want 100 light fixtures. I want 90 light fixtures. Very small things, but at this point, your estimate is almost final. Now, this is that estimate that is supposed to be between 2 to 3%. If you could bring this estimate and the actual cost of the project within 3% delta, then you are considered a very good estimator. But at this point, if the owner sees a 15% delta with the actual construction cost, then they're gonna come after you and get you, because then basically you misguided them. At this point, you should be well educated enough, well skilled enough to produce an estimate that is looking very close to the actual cost of the project, right? So that's the CD estimate, right?
Sir, it
And you
is
see, yeah.
it is the same thing like we do the feasibility design, then we prepare the preliminary design, then we prepare the detailed design, then we are preparing the final issued for construction drawing. And with the passage of the time, like you have already taught the conceptual model like feasibility and then preliminary, then detailed, then IFC, and definitely the cost estimates are going more accurate. But
Yes.
after finalizing in Pakistan, what happens that we prepare these drawings, conceptual design, conceptual drawings, detailed design. When we got an accurate, not accurate, roughly roundabout estimate, then we write it on the PC1 that is approved by the government.
Yes, exactly. So exactly, that's the PC1 part I know. In the US, the way it works is that this estimate then goes to the permit set. Permit set is that this is where the estimate and this is where the drawing set that you use to get your permit. So you submit that to the local jurisdiction, the local government, and then they issue you a permit. So sometimes the client after so we typically stop here as a company, the company that I work for, we typically stop it at the CD level, but I have seen once in a while the permit cost estimation comes through as well, where they would say, okay, now that we were applying for the permits and the permit people has mentioned a few changes here and there, and based on those changes now produce an estimate that incorporates those changes. So sometimes then we call that as a permit estimate. And that permit estimate is typically the contractor, the bidding estimate. So earlier I mentioned that there are two types of estimates. One is from the general contractor when he's actively bidding a project, and one is the budgeting. So in this case, I was helping the owner to produce a budget. Now, once I produced the CD estimate for this particular owner, he knew what his project is going to cost. Then, he took that number, he kept it secretly with him, and then he opened up his project for open bidding. Then there were like 10, 15 general contractors bidded on that project. But in his mind, I had given him the number that those numbers should fall in between this number. If the number is crazy high or crazy low, there might be some scope missing here and there. So we need to so if the number, so that's what I'm talking about, that your number should be within 2 to 3% of the contractor bidders, the lower bidder number. So that's why it is very important that you give your client, your owner, very accurate information. If you give him a very wrong estimate and the bidders are all over the place, then he's gonna come after you. Because he's paying you for this. He's not like you're not doing it for free. He's paying you for this. So if he cannot use your estimate as a decision, then it's not beneficial to him. So he's gonna come after you. Abdul Qadir, yes.
Sir, my question is that if the owner has the idea of building a 4-story hospital in Pakistan, and he has the rough budget of around 150 million Pakistani rupees. Like in your opinion, if he has this idea now in cost controlling or to be in the domain of his cost, either he can drop the number of stories if it's exceeding his budget. Either he can go for the reducing the floor area, and he can control the finishing, like what type of finishing he can use. Now I'm confused in this, in which estimates, like you have mentioned the schematic estimate, the DD estimate, and the CD. In which estimate he can drop the number of story, or he can reduce the floor area, or he can control the finishing. Kindly
Okay.
specify which in all these stages. Thank you.
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. So if I were him, I would typically do those changes as an alternates, and that would fall under DD estimates, because I don't know where I can cut down my project. Because why? And there's a term called value engineering. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but there's a term value engineering. Now, what is value engineering? Value engineering is basically when you can compromise on certain items in the building to lower the cost. Because, for example, if you talked about the hospital project, so hospital project, you cannot compromise on the equipment of the hospital, right? You want to use the highest equipment because you know those equipment. So you cannot compromise. So that cannot be your value engineering item. You can compromise on your finishing. You know, it's okay if it is not so fancy. People can still walk on it if it is not fancy, right? So though that can be so. Typically, at the DD level, you identify the value engineering items in a particular building. And then you say, okay, I can compromise on this item. I cannot do this one, this one, this one. You make a list of items. Typically, at a DD level, I would do. Some people even can do it at SD level as well. That's, you know, it's not hard to do it as SD, but DD would be because DD is sort of like, you know, the middle of the estimate. So at that point, you can just see where you can save money, and then you can bring your project down to within your budgetary constraint.
But sir, variation can come from any dimension, from any perspective, like change in design, change in tile pattern, change in
Yeah.
lighting, change in even air handling unit, change in electrical load. Even we during the DDs, we are not sure that our DBs are final. So that can come from any perspective.
Yeah, but DD level, your project is almost 90% complete. It's very significant. Like, you know, 10% is not going to change the estimate upside down. You know, DD level, don't forget, it's almost 80 to 90. I have seen some DD levels, they are more complete than a CD level project. So yeah, so again, you know, the value engineering items, you can do it even after the CD estimate as well. It's not like it has to be, but I said if I were to make changes, I would rather, personally, this is my preference, but owner has the choice. They can do it even after CD. They can, you know, there's a process that you sit down with the owner, because you try hard to bring their project within their budget, but still does not happen because the market does not allow you to lower the prices. Then you sit down with your owner saying that, okay, you know, you gave me 150 million budget, but you know, I cannot go less than 175 because the market is tough. There are less, worker shortages and all that. And then you sit down with him and then you say, okay, let's see where we can reduce the cost. So sometimes, you know, the owner budget should not drive your skills, by the way. But if he still wants to do it in 150, then of course he has to compromise on the size of the building, the floors of the buildings and all that. So, yeah.
Definitely, sir. In value engineering, we just focus on the quality that reduce the price, but keep in mind in the quality.
Yes.
Secondly, sir, I want to ask an other question that what are engineer estimate? Are they done at the DD's level?
You said the engineer's estimate.
Engineer's estimate.
Engineer estimate is basically the CD estimate. The one that we produce for the designer is called the engineer's estimate. So this is the engineer's estimate, because engineer is designing the project. At the same time, I'm giving him my cost information to him. So I'm not working with the general contractor. I'm working with the engineer to produce his budget. So this would be the engineer. So if I'm working from the owner perspective, working with the engineers, that would be the engineer's estimate. So that's the engineer's estimate. But if I'm bidding a project, then that's not a engineer's estimate. That's a contractor estimate.
Can we say contractor estimate is BOQ price?
Is what price? Sorry.
BOQ, bill of quantities price. That is final.
Yeah. So contractor pricing is usually more accurate. You know, if he's a good contractor and if he has a solid team, then he would produce a very accurate estimate because he's in the market winning all these jobs, doing all these jobs. So contractor estimate is always a very important and most accurate estimate if he's a good contractor. So yeah, I would, but don't forget that this engineer's estimate is also done with care. It's done with the current market values, the current ratings and everything. So when we provide information to the engineers and the owner, we also look at things from the contractor perspective to see what contractor would see in these documents. And then because the designer typically don't know how the contractor works, so that's when they hire the cost consultant, which in this case would be me. Or so the owner would say, okay, you know what? I want someone who can look at the things from the contractor perspective to give me a price. So that's when I work with him.
So do we have,
Yes, go ahead.
do we have a slide like rough estimate, then detailed estimate, then engineer estimate, then BOQ estimate, then final cost?
Do I have
Do
a
we have
slide on this in this presentation?
Yes, yes.
I don't
Just
think I have a
mention.
slide on this. Maybe I can find. No, I don't think I have a slide on this one. I
Okay,
don't
it's
think.
okay, sir.
Yeah, it's just a webinar, so I don't think I was producing estimates in this. I thought it was a 1 hour webinar, but it's already 2 hours.
It is, yeah, yes,
I thought it was just more of like a marketing for the upcoming course, but it is becoming the course itself now. But that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, we almost get the idea. Don't need.
Yeah, get the idea of what is expecting, whether good or bad. You will decide that later, but at least you know
Sir,
the.
now the mind is very confusing because in Pakistan we have different terminologies and USA like bare cost and operational cost and maintenance cost, but we have some different costs. Like
Yeah.
but mine is between as if I am thinking the cost estimation as USA style.
No, I know about that, but the basic is the same. You know, the basic, yes, the unit prices is different, but the basic is the same. You know, if you use these similar techniques in any industry, this should help you. But it's up to you. I'm not gonna say it is come because
No,
you know
no,
I have to keep in mind not just the Pakistani. This is an international course too, so there are so many
yeah,
international
sir.
audiences as well.
Absolutely right, sir.
Yeah.
Would
So
like to we would like to see the USA standard as international standard. I
yeah.
am not in Pakistan. If I want to apply in the abroad in any country, definitely if I understand the main international terminologies, that is
Yeah.
going to help to grab a good job.
Absolutely, absolutely. And plus, you know, like I said, you can set it up any way you want, and then you change the currency based on your needs and wherever you work. But if you set up all these factors into your estimate, you know, wherever you're estimating, your estimate is going to produce a very good estimate. That's what my at least promises that this course is definitely going to teach you all the tricks and techniques. Other than that, unit pricing, labor hours, those are all going to be different in locations. Sharif has a question, or who else has a question? Or Afaq. Afaq, go ahead, please.
Sir, I have a question that
Yeah.
if we have designed a building 30 to 40% in type of second estimate, I forgot the name. If we have designed 30 to 40% of building and the estimate has been done, we have mean an owner wants to keep an eye on the budget. Yes, early and schematic design estimate.
Mm-hmm.
When we estimate, the estimate was in line with the budget. But suddenly inflation occurs, material rates are being high. So if we are estimating in 80 to 90% of the design, it doesn't matches with the uh, budget that owner has to be deliver. So what will be our step to handle this?
So this is a very good question again. So there's a when you do all of the line by line item estimation of quantities times the unit pricing and all that, towards the very end, and I don't know if I can pull up one of my estimates here, but we usually use a term called the escalation factor. Now, there towards the very end, when you do your estimate does not stop when you finish the quantity times the labor times the material and all that. It doesn't stop here. Towards the very end, you start applying your markups. So one of the markups, there are markups for contingencies because your design might have a lot of contingencies that are not visible on the drawings. For example, I'll give you an example. For example, the geotechnical report shows you that 1 feet down the ground, you have just very good soil. And all of a sudden, when you start excavation, because geotechnical report, you're not digging the whole site, you're only doing the bore holes, right, in different locations. And based on those bore holes report, you produce the geotechnical report for the entire area, right? But what if, when you start digging and all of a sudden your site has big rocks or something like that, or you hit a bit bedrock or something like that. So you don't know because you did not account for it because the geotechnical report did not ask for it. So those type of contingencies you also keep in mind, and you typically cover those by some percentages. Towards the very end, we are applying so many different markups. So one of the markup is contingencies. The other markup is the escalation factor. So currently in this market, post-COVID, pre-COVID, we were only keeping like 3% escalation factor for any of the inflation to occur. This 3% would cover that fluctuation. Currently, in current market, we at least keep 8%. 8%. So now the project, because my project, the one I'm estimating here, is not going to be built until next year or 2 years from today. But that escalation factor percentage that I keep in my estimate should cover all the fluctuations of the market, inflation and all that. So that's the best we can do. Otherwise, in future, I mean, at least, we can cover the escalation factor we are anticipating. So those also come into your knowledge of how well you read the international business, how well you follow the international market, the stock market, and all those type of things, and see traditional values and all that. And then you come up with some escalation. So that escalation should typically cover the inflation. Is that clear? And I will see if I can pull up an estimate that I have typically done, but and yeah, I typically cover that with the might not have it, but because I don't know if yeah, there's an error. I'll see, but yeah, I think I'm not connected with the server right now, so I'll see if I can produce that in the class. But I typically cover that with the escalations. Is that clear?
Yes, it is clear.
Okay. So we got to the last estimate, right? So the CD estimate where everything has been laid out, everything. Oh, go ahead. Someone has questions. So Habe.
Sir, I have a question. I have seen different at different sites. Somewhere they add contingencies in each activity. At
Oh
some
yeah.
sites they add activities in control accounts, and sometimes they also add in planning accounts.
Yes.
So what is the exact point where we add contingencies in control?
Yeah, that's so contingencies. I would typically do it the total cost estimate on top of that, a percentage of that, because you can basically have contingencies is in any division. You can have it in concrete, you can have it in bricks, you can have it in steel, you can have it in site. So you name it, you can have so that's why ideally, if you just do the estimation, total estimation, then on top of that 2%, 3% of the total estimate can go into the contingency. So that can generally cover the contingencies globally, not at one particular section, site or concrete or that. So I would rather do it as a whole, not as like, division by division.
Right.
Okay. All right, so then, we come to the point where you guys are all interested in learning the softwares, how it's done, the estimates, right? So we talked about so many types of estimate, why one estimate is important, why the other one is why. And so all those discussion has been done. So then it comes to the point that to how it's done. So it's done in so many different ways, right? We have the traditional pen way still very much effective, right? Still I use it. In this very modern world, we still use the paper pencil estimate. Hard copy measurements, the benefits and then the drawbacks. You see them up there that it's still good for smaller projects, quick checks. Sometimes when I go out on the field and then the owner grabs me from my shoulder and asks me for a quick estimate, at least as a cost engineer or as a cost professional, I should know all the mathematics behind all these computer programs and all that. So sometimes, those softwares are not readily available for you, but you as a cost engineer or cost professional should know all the calculations behind those software so that you can run some quick calculations quickly. So that's one way of doing it. Again, you just very traditional, um, very manual thing. So still very much effective in small projects. Of course, you cannot do a huge project estimating based on just counting it by pen and pencil when you are doing, like, for example, 30 stories or 40 stories building, right? Of course, then you would use your the PlanSwift or the other 3D softwares. Then we have the 2D quantity takeoffs. I have also wrote a couple of research papers in this 2D as well. So 2D is where you have software like, for example, PlanSwift. The on-screen takeoff software is very similar to this PlanSwift. I use both, but they are very similar. I don't know if you can download the PlanSwift for free, but I think I have heard that you can do it, a crack version of it. But PlanSwift typically gives you a 2 weeks free trial as well when you send them an email. But I'm sure a lot of people here, they have some sort of like crack version that they can download. So PlanSwift is a 2D software, and it basically takes your PDF, uploads it, you just change the scale, and then you start counting your items. It's very, very easily user friendly. You don't need a specialized training for that. You'll learn that in less than a week. And that's why it's more convenient. You can easily export items into Excel. You can easily download your takeoffs into PDFs and all that. So that's what, and also it's very compatible to Microsoft suites as well. Some of the challenges that sometimes the view is hidden. You don't see a good view because it's all 2D. It's just like as if you are looking at a actual drawing. So some of the views are hidden. So that's one of the estimate. And also it's user dependent. If you are feeding it with wrong information, it's going to produce you wrong information. So always you should be, when you get an abnormally wrong information or wrong result from a software, you should be aware whether the answer makes sense or not. So it's very user dependent. If you are using it wrong and you don't know what's going on, then you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. So those were the couple of cons that I see. I've been using PlanSwift on a daily basis. It's a very, very good tool. I love it, and I do a lot of the work in PlanSwift. And
Sir,
like I said, it's very, yeah.
what about Bluebeam?
Bluebeam is very good too, but Bluebeam has a lot of limitations. It's not as user friendly as the PlanSwift. PlanSwift, let me see if I have a PlanSwift. So PlanSwift, you can do things very, very easily. Bluebeam is good too, but for some reason Bluebeam to me, it just takes a long time. It just takes a long time when you are doing all the quantities. That's just my experience. Maybe other people have used it efficiently. So for me, it's just taking a little bit longer than the PlanSwift.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. We request you, sir, to kindly send the crack version of PlanSwift via email to the
Yeah, I'll speak to
session.
yeah. So basically you see like this is the PlanSwift software. So it's very easy. You see, like you can open any project, you can make all the folders. This is your PDF that you upload. All you have to do is just change the scale. Like for example, this is the cover sheet, so let me just go to, for example, each sheet will have a scale 120. So I come here, I choose my right scale.
The scale should be according to the design scale.
Yeah, this is the actual design scale. Yes. So you just choose your scale. Where is it at? This one. So then once you scale it, then you see, like, this is a check. Usually, the drawings will have like these check marks. So you can check whether your scale is correct or not. For example, this should be my 10, 20 feet line. You see, this is 20 feet almost. Yeah, so 20 feet. So this is good. So yeah, so see, like from the PDF, it just incorporates the scale very easily. And from there you start counting. For example, this was a site that I was doing, and I'm counting the site lighting, you see. And as you are counting, it's basically counting the totals. If I click on this one, it tells me where it is at. This is like the 24, the same type I have 24 and all that. So it's very easy. We'll be learning about PlanSwift throughout the course. So yeah. But I just wanted to show you how it looks like. Okay.
Sir, we can also calculate the estimation through Revit, and we can also calculate the estimation through Navisworks.
Yes, we can do that. Yes. So those are your quantity takeoffs. Yes, you can do that. But like I earlier mentioned, for example, in Revit, if you have to do the quantities, some of your it's good for some of the divisions. For example, it's good for your interior partitions, interior floor areas. You can right away get your areas by just a matter with just a matter of few clicks, and you'll get the areas. But if I have to use Revit, for example, something like underground piping versus above ground piping, then Revit does not tell me which one is underground, which one is above ground. It will just tell me, okay, this is 4-inch piping. And like I mentioned earlier, that sometimes my below grade piping would cost me more because there is a cost for the excavation included as well. So I have to keep those quantities separate from, even if the pipe is all the same and everything, the material, but I still have to keep those quantities separate because for those below ground quantities, I still have to add the excavation factor to it. For the above grade, I don't have to. For the below grade, I do. So those type of delineation, sometimes Revit will have limitations. Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, you are right. In Revit, we can be above or below. But in Navisworks, if we give the unit, like for example, concrete is per cubic feet, whether it is above the ground, whether it is below the ground, I think Navisworks can calculate on that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like in some sections, you can easily, because if you don't care about like the concrete, you don't care about whether it's above grade or below grade. It's just all concrete. That's fine. So you can use it for some, like I said, some divisions, concrete, maybe steel, even interior finishing, these finishes, tile areas, marble areas. Those are good for Revit is good for those. It will give you quantities right away. You don't have to manually calculate every single point. But yeah, MEP has a lot of limitations in Revit. So this course is not just about one or two divisions. We're thinking about covering the entire divisions or the entire system in the building, in a commercial building. So that's why. So this is how it looks like. I just showed you a live version of the PlanSwift as well, but basically this is where you record your quantities. This is a typical sheet that I was doing some quantity takeoffs. It gives you all the different colors. And then basically once you complete, then you take all these quantities. For example, this is the light fixtures that I was doing. I have type L1, L2, L12, L5, and then here in front of it gives me the quantities each. And then, I can easily export that into Excel. This next type, you see, I can easily export that to Excel. And from there, I can do all my estimation with it, right? So it's very easy. And then then there's that BIM-based quantity takeouts, basically where, BIM, when we talk about BIM, for construction cost estimation, Revit, Navisworks, those are the software that you can use. And they are very highly accurate, plus, they can do your work um, in in less time. And also, one of the limitation is that, some smaller companies might not have enough resources, training resources, or maybe enough manpower to do the BIM, because it is a specialized software. You would need some specialized training for it to do the cost estimation. And also, yes, like it's not still not implemented everywhere. Yes, some bigger companies, some more sophisticated companies, they will have it. Like in my company, we use Revit as well for architectural estimation, but some people might still not use it. So you want to be you want to be flexible with who you communicate. Some companies, if they don't have Revit and you're only using Revit, then you're not going to be able to communicate with that company, because sometimes you bring on board subcontractors in your estimate. For example, when I started with this current company, we typically did not have a MEP team before. We had to always sub out that work
Yes,
or
sir,
bring
we
in.
have limitations.
Yeah,
Like someone is using the Revit 22, then he must also using the Revit 22 or below that. If he will be
right.
using the Revit 24, he will not be able to open the file. Secondly,
Exactly.
you need a dashboard, and for the dashboard, all the stakeholders should buy BIM 360, and some of the people do not buy BIM 360. But sir, I have a humble request. Please
Sure.
include this estimation at the end of the lectures. Revit calculations take off. Just give us a lecture include on that. I would be very much. It's a just humble request on that.
So I can do that, but I'll talk to the coordinator as well, because we have a separate course on the Revit and all that. So I think they teach those things in the other course. But I'll see what I can do. I mean, I'll try my best. I cannot promise it at this point, but I'll
Oh,
see.
okay, sir. I know it takes a lot of time. Just
Yeah,
give us a just a
sure.
general idea.
Yeah,
For
those
example,
right.
if you take a sample of concrete kgs, you select the steel, and it gives you takeoff. Just give a
Yeah,
bird eye view so that we can practice
sure.
on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, definitely. No problem. Okay. So yeah, so 3D, so again, you guys are all familiar with the Revit. So Revit can produce you the model estimation very quickly. They can just, in a matter of few clicks, incorporate all your um, quantities from the model into an Excel spreadsheet. And like I mentioned a couple of times, that it is very, very beneficial for some of the division. Concrete is one of them, steel is another, finishes, interior partitions, even the building exterior, the building envelope, the glass, and all those type of things. But then again, we need to make sure that we are communicating effectively with our stakeholders and what they use, and then based on those all choices and things in mind, then we can use the appropriate one for our own uses. So yeah, so those are the BIM one, and I think that's my last slide. Before I open the floor for questions, I have one thing that I was supposed to show you. So this is that form. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but this is that form that you can complete for the course that coming up, diploma in construction cost estimation. So you'll see a link. I think if you ask the coordinator, he'll forward it to you. I don't have the direct access to it, but once you request it, you'll get the form and then fill this out so we can have a head count of the class and everything. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for your attention. I know this was supposed to be just a 1 hour, but it just exceeded the time. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and we'll go from there.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. It's Muhammad Khubaib.
Yes.
Sir, you have explained that the reason why we are using PlanSwift or BIM, Revit, Navisworks, etc. Sir, if I have a project of my freelancing project, which is regarding to the cost estimation of architecture and structural mean design only.
Yeah.
For this project, should I use Revit or PlanSwift?
You can use both. It depends on you. If I were you, I would use PlanSwift, because Revit can still crash on me. Sometimes, if I make changes, Revit gives me different answers. But I like PlanSwift better than the Revit,
Yes,
because
sir. They
Sir,
have
I am a
plan
beginner.
clash detection. Sorry, I just want to add. They have clash detections, and there are some items which are miscellaneous, and which
yeah.
they do not have specific quantity or what they have miscellaneous, and you have to put the lump sum amount in any subhead. So Navisarch has some limitations. Revit do have some limitations, but working on the PlanSwift definitely it's a detailed working than the Revit or the Navisworks, but I think PlanSwift will give more accurate if you are getting
Yeah.
some items which are not used in Revit or Navisworks.
Yeah, because in PlanSwift, so PlanSwift would basically show you what you have taken off already. It will shade it. So, but with Revit, I don't know what's included in my estimate. It just gives you like one complete total number. Versus PlanSwift will tell you, okay, you have taken this area, this is this much, this is this much, and then at the bottom it tells you that this is the total. With Revit, it just gives you totals so quickly that you cannot verify which areas are included in this estimate or which items are included in this number. So I would use PlanSwift, but you can use both. You can use Revit as well.
As I am a beginner, I'm in 5th semester, I am working on these skills. What would you suggest me to learn on
I would suggest you to
Revit or
learn
PlanSwift?
PlanSwift first. I would suggest you learn PlanSwift.
Okay,
And
thank you so much.
PlanSwift is not, it's very user friendly. It's a 2D software. Then, once you are proficient, then you can use the 3D.
Sir, in
Thank you so much, sir.
Bluebeam, we calculate the, for example, 9-inch block work. Whenever I click, whenever I select, I will select on one and he will show me all the block work which I have selected and can easily view that where is my mistake. Can we do that on PlanSwift also?
Sorry, I think I missed the second part of your question. Can you just repeat the second part of your question?
Okay.
You-
In the first part, I said 9-inch block work. I select each block work separately, and in Bluebeam, we know that the working is showing blind behind the in the same screen. Below you divide the two screen, and below that he is showing all your detailed work that you selected this 9-inch block work at this grid. And this is my question that we do the same as in PlanSwift also.
Yes, you can definitely do that in PlanSwift as well. Yes, absolutely. Because PlanSwift basically, uh, PlanSwift is just like, as if you are writing something on the actual paper. So whatever you are taking it off, it actually records that, and then it also highlights it, and then it tells you that, you have taken off this area, and this is the area left. So definitely the way you explain it, you can do that in PlanSwift as well. Yeah.
Okay, sir, got it.
Any more questions? I can give you 2 more minutes before we leave because I'm already very exhausted. No, I'm just kidding. You guys can ask me as many questions as you want.
You spoke a lot, sir.
I know.
You must take
Okay.
some rest.
Okay, if you don't have any more questions, well, it was pleasure meeting you all. And some of you spoke very well. Some of you asked some very good questions, and I was thrilled to listen to those questions. Hopefully, it was somewhat informative for you all. And if you have any questions, yeah, you probably have my information. Just shoot me a message, contact me. My LinkedIn is there, so you can communicate with me on LinkedIn as well. And I typically reply very, very quickly. So yeah, we can talk. Let's
Sir,
just
thank
make
you.
this happen. Yeah. And then do sign up for the course if you want, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much. And I appreciate coordinator for arranging this. I appreciate it a lot. We'll see you next time. Take care, everyone. Take care.
Thank you so much,
Assalamu
sir.
alaikum.
Jazakallah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Allah
assalamu alaikum.
Hafiz.